We are coming out with a new report with new data on domestic terrorism in the United States. It's called Push to Extremes, and this is our update of a data set of over 1,000 cases of domestic terrorist attacks in the United States that goes back to the early 1990s. What's new about this report is it includes 2021 data, which has not been published yet, that CSIS has put together, and we've now added the analysis to it.
In support of our research on domestic terrorism, CSIS has compiled a data set of over 1,000 terrorist attacks and plots in the United States between 1994 and 2021. This includes information on both the incidents themselves as well as the perpetrators, ideology, location of the incident, weapons used, and targets. The threat from domestic terrorism in the United States remains high. 2020 saw the largest number of attacks and plots in the United States since 1994, though it was a slight decrease from 110 incidents in 2020 to 77 in 2021, still came in second after 2020, with a historically high number of attacks and plots. One of the newest trends that we've noticed is the growing number of domestic terrorist attacks and plots that occur at demonstrations, whether that's targeting protesters, actions committed by protesters, or attacks just simply timed to occur at the same time as demonstrations. In 2019, only 2% of domestic terrorist attacks and plots took place at demonstrations. That number rose to 47% in 2020 and 53% in 2021. That means that more than half of the terrorist attacks and plots in 2021 were occurring in the context of demonstrations. This increase has led to what we in the political science field call a security dilemma happening in American cities, where attempts by both sides to increase their own security is perceived as a threat by the other, leading to broader escalation and violence between differing ideological actors.
There are a couple of things that I think are important policy conclusions that come out of this. One is that there still is a paucity of publicly available data from the U.S. government on trends in domestic terrorism. The vast amount of data is coming from outside of the government. It would be extremely helpful if the government were able to provide information to the American public on types of attacks and plots and targets in order to give a sense of the gravity of the situation. A second is to continue to provide resources to local communities, particularly government agencies, to deal both with extremism in their communities and to law enforcement to more effectively deal with what is a spiraling violence in a number of different cities. There are a couple other things that we recommend. One is putting bans in place during demonstrations that limit the types of weapons used. And in some cities, it's less of an issue. Washington, for example, has a ban on guns that people can bring, but that's not true in all the locations we took a look at. So it is worth looking at specifically for demonstrations, putting bans in place that make it more difficult for large numbers of weapons to be pushed in for these kinds of security dilemma situations. To read the full report, visit us at csis.org.